Hi guys and welcome, I am Enigmius and today we're back in the Nether getting started on our next major project build. This time we're not actually building a structure, we're building a vehicle. Yes, that's right, we're using everything that we've learned about frames up to this point to build something that we can use to tool around the Nether while we're waiting for our quarries to finish excavating the site for our next structure project. And I'm here in the spire. I've actually added first of all, a window to the spire. This is the exit that I was talking about that allows me to get in and out of the spire without having to break bricks. It's got kind of a little pillar here that serves as a barrier. It makes it much, much harder for ghasts to get fireballs through if they do happen to see me through that little narrow opening. And this is the hangar. This is where we'll actually be building the Nether Crawler, as I'll be calling it. Very, very utilitarian. I even broke my own rule. I used redstone torches under the lamps because I just wanted to get it built. It's not about the hangar, it's about what's in the hangar. Now, just briefly, before we get started with the build, we'll take a look outside and see exactly how all of this sort of fits together. And I'm going to make sure that I've got a sword equipped to handle the ghasts that are bound to be out here waiting for me. So this is the hangar, and that you'll recognize as the item sorting room. You can actually see the Nether portal through the glass there. So that's it. It's just basically dangling off the end of the spire. It looks not too bad for what it is, but it's still just a very, very simple structure, and it's made out of cobblestone so that if I need to adjust it to make things fit inside, I can without having to break out the mining laser to go through reinforced stone like I would in other areas of the spire. So this is where we're going to be spending a fair bit of time. You'll notice there's no windows in here, and that's because this is actually probably one of the most challenging kinds of things a person can do in Minecraft, and I really don't want any distractions. And especially if there's a thunderstorm in the overworld, the glitchy, flashy lights tend to be kind of a distraction. Now, the first thing that we're going to do, the episode today, we're going to be focusing on getting the drive unit into place. And this is going to be the frame motors that are responsible for making the vehicle move. Now, this is going to be a 6-directional drive motor, which means we'll be able to move all 4 directions on the horizontal plane, north, south, east, and west, and we'll also be able to move up and down. Now, I'm reluctant to call this a flying vehicle, even though technically we could easily do that. The main reason is because when people, certainly myself, when I think of flying, I think of fast, and this guy isn't going to be anything even remotely resembling fast. So to get started off, I'm starting with a 3x5 platform made out of frames. The idea here is we want to keep things as compact as possible. It doesn't mean we have to be stingy. It just means that the more we add to it that we didn't have to add, the more resources we're going to be demanding of our computers that may or may not be up to the task of handling it. We've already seen what can happen with the large track lights and other projects that I've done with frames. When you try and move a large object and it starts doing the shearing and the flickering and all that other stuff. So just trying to be mindful of that as we're building. Now, first thing I want to do, as you see, obviously I've got 4 motors here. One of the tricks that I've learned is that if you hold down your crouch button and use the screwdriver, it flips the faces on the motor, and then if you let go of the crouch button and use it, it rotates the control face. So I didn't know that you could hold down shift and make it flip the faces like that. So if you didn't know, now you do. Now you can see all 4 motors are now facing in, or basically facing towards each other, and in the middle we're going to plunk down a frame. Now each one of these is responsible for 1/2 of the inchworm drive system. Now the other half is going to be a motor directly on top that will actually, once we're done adjusting them, be facing down so that the control face will be meeting up with the control face on the engine on the bottom. Now this is by design. We'll go into a little more detail why once I get them all oriented. Okay, so they're all basically set up as we want them, and then we spin it around. What we're looking for, especially if you're using this Fax Pure BD Craft, is you want the arrows on the control faces from the top and the bottom to both be facing the same direction. In this case, we want it facing that way for these 2 motors, and the easiest way to make sure that it's working that way is if you've got like a less than or a greater than symbol like this here with that wooden beam in the panel on the side. If they end up looking parallel like that, you don't have it right. You want it looking like that. So basically, the motors on the top are facing the same direction as the motors on the bottom. The only difference is obviously one's upside down and one is not. So we're going to set that up. There we go. So this basically, at its core, is the heart of the 4-directional inchworm drive. That's it. Literally, just that simple. Obviously, we need to get power to these motors, and we need to be able to send a redstone signal to them to make them go. But in terms of their basic configuration, that's it right there. They're all set up. So what happens, we use this one for example, say we wanted to go that way, right? What we would do is we would send a redstone signal to this motor on the bottom that would push this motor onto this frame in the middle. And we'll have a redstone pulse generated above this frame here so that this motor gets a redstone pulse and actually slides the whole structure, pushes the frame and everything attached to it that way, and ends up back on top of the one on the bottom. You can just repeat until you get where you want to go or run into something or, you know, whatever, run out of power. It doesn't really matter, but that's the heart of the inchworm drive system. So we're just doing it set up to do 4 ways. Obviously, we're not going to be moving in, you know, 2, 3, or 4 directions at the same time. So to save space, we're basically having them around the same frame block and allowing them to all share that one block that allows them to move the structure. So that's one way to save space with this drive setup. Now this one here, we want to get the up and down movement taken care of, which is basically the same thing. The only difference is you can see this guy is going to be the up motor. We want him facing that way and that way. So you can see it's basically on its side and it's now facing up. And now just like with these ones, we're going to put another one here. I'm going to turn it so that it's facing in towards that one. And then we'll use the panels on the side to make sure, there we go, to make sure that this one is facing up as well. Now we go like this, and just like these ones have this frame in the middle directly adjacent to the bottom motor that the top motor can slide onto, we put a frame here. Now we want the bottom motor, right, pretending that it's the bottom. We'll flip it around, so there, that's the bottom motor. We'll put another one on top so that it slides down onto that one. And hold down shift so we can flip the face, and we can see we've got the less than, greater than symbol here. That's it. That's the inchworm, the 6-directional inchworm drive system, as compact as I can make it. Now what we need to do, there's 3 things that we need to do, and we need to give them equal consideration. If you forget one thing or do it wrong, it won't work. So we need to get power to every motor. We need to get a redstone signal, or the opportunity, you know, to get a redstone signal to every motor. And we need to make sure everything, cables and motors, are properly attached to the frame structure. So what I'm going to do to get this started is I'm going to actually build out the structure a little bit. We'll do that and that. Now we can basically put these into place, and if we decide later that we want to move them, remove them, whatever, we can do that. But for now, I want to kind of get a feel for how everything is coming together. So we're going to build this out 1 block as well. Finish putting that like that. Now, I mentioned in the last episode, and it very much carries forward into this project as well, but whenever I'm doing something with frames and motors, I like to get the motor unit in place first and test it to make sure it works before I add any kind of other structure elements or whatever. And that way, if it works, I know that the motor unit itself works. And if something goes wrong later, I know I don't have to look at the motor unit to see if that's where the problem is, as opposed to waiting until everything is done and built and, you know, in place to try and fire it up, and all of a sudden it doesn't work, and you basically are put into a situation where you might as well, depending on how complicated it was, you may as well start over at that point, because the chances of actually getting it sorted out are between slim and none, I've found. Alright, so you can see here, after well actually even with those that I just broke out, all of the motors Bottom, even these guys, they've got frames on either side, and the frames wrap around and do all that wrapped around. And top, if I could, ouch. And top, all of the motors are encased in frames. Now, I also want to keep in mind the direction that this ship is going to be built in. Yes, I called it a ship. It's going to be, we're going to be building it that way. The front of it is going to be that way. So I want to keep that in mind as well when I'm determining things that are going to be traveling the length of the vehicle. For example, cables, power cables, all of things that are going to be included here are probably also going to be going forward in some capacity as well. So I want to keep that in mind as I'm building it. So we've got that guy. So let's get the power cables in first. Using my stone jacketed blue wire. Nice gray. I thought about doing like some more gem jacketed cable just for this project. But with all the bundled cable that I'll be using throughout the ship, it's already going to look like someone beat the shit out of a rainbow as they were building this thing and just kind of left it to drag itself along the floors. So I don't really think I need a whole lot of extra color. Now I'm just going to spot this red wire. This is my, trademark now signal for this is going to be a pulsing redstone signal traveling through this cable is the red jacketed red wire. So just putting that there for now so I know exactly what's going on. And we've also got one down here that we're going to put in there. And then under here we need to get the gray cable to each of these motors as well. Now I also again need to be mindful of how everything is going to fit together and operate. So we will go like that and like that. See, right now this frame here, this one directly above me, is directly below the one that's between the four motors where the top motor slides onto. You can see that one is only connected to the motors. It's not connected to frames, so that's no good. That one, same thing. It's connected to a frame, but these two frames aren't connected to any other frames. So what I need to be doing is making sure that I'm aware of that so that I can adjust for that in my design. So what I can do now, because of the way I ran this cable, I can go like this. And just like that, it's all connected. Everything is happy. Now I still have to connect the cables, I'll have to go around and fill in around these cables to make sure they're properly connected. Same with the ones up top. But I mean, those are easy. Those aren't going to be a problem at all. So I've got the power cables reaching everything that will need power. I've got the the redstone cables spotted, so I know where I'll need to send those. And now all I need to do is get the the bundled cable in place, sending the control signal to all the motors that'll need a control signal, and then I can wrap it all up. It'll be ready to go once we get. We'll actually be doing a computer-controlled navigation system, so to speak, that'll be controlling all the control signals, because if we try and operate it with switches, we're going to lose our minds. So, well, piggies are dying. So what we'll do is we'll kind of poke down here, clear these out of the way for now. They're easy enough to put back, and we need a little bit of room to work. Now, one of the things that I've learned, there's actually a couple of things that I've learned, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to do this live instead of just doing it and then doing a tour like I've been doing up till now, is because there's some really neat tips and tricks that I hadn't really thought of until I started looking into various different things. Now, I've got basalt cobblestone panels, which are the step before you make covers. We want the panels because the panels will allow wires to stick to them. If you use covers on the frames to stick wires, when you move the frame unit, the wires will pop off. So you have to use the panels. Don't use covers if you're putting wires on it. So we're going to put that guy there, that guy there. We're actually going to use a frame for that guy there, another panel, and oh, wow. All right, panel. So that'll get us started. We're going to be using, we'll keep those there. White for up, black for down. Actually, yeah, we'll do black in a moment. So we got See what I mean? That's kind of bright. We don't need more color in the cables. I swear. We can go like that. And that and that. I have this distinct impression. We'll try it. Let's just... First of all, we'll get up taken care of. Now you see how it explicitly bends and makes contact with the motor? That's how you know it's making good and proper contact. Because I think if we just take this guy and put it in there, see how it's just going straight? There's a motor right there, but this isn't bending to make contact with it. And that's sort of your hint that it's not properly wired. So what we need to do actually is we'll take this down. We'll need another panel. Take panel, put it there. Then we take the black, and there we go. You see it bends around and it makes contact with the motor. So that's it. Up and down, just like that, are set to receive redstone pulse from whatever is sending the redstone pulse to tell them to work, just like that. So now we want to get into this, actually this motor here without that one. Now I'll show you what happens. We'll use, is that one is, yeah, that's south. This motor here is the one that'll move south. South is Antarctica, which is cold, and cold people turn blue. If we just take that and... Okay, let me run the cable so nobody gets confused. Right, we've got the cable going by, and we've got the blue... Oh my goodness. The blue insulated wire, we put it here. See how it wants to join to both motors? Well, we don't want that. We want just one motor, because like I said earlier, we can't move in two directions at the same time. So what we do is we take this strip, basalt cobblestone cover strip, which is you take a cover and then use your saw and it cuts down into strips. We take one of those strips and we put it in there. So it's probably going to be difficult to see on the finished video, but it's just a little wee micro block strip right along the motor, so that when we take the blue wire, it prevents it from connecting to that motor. So that's one of the nifty little tricks that I've learned that actually saves a bunch of headaches when it comes to wiring things, because getting things wired properly and efficiently is probably one of the most challenging parts of this whole shenanigan. Now we're going to do the same thing here. You can see we've got two motors. We don't want to be sending a signal to both at the same time. So once again, now what direction is this one? That one is facing west. The sun sets in the west. Everything goes gray when the sun goes down. So we go like, okay, we've already got the strip there. Put that there. Rainbow barf. Rainbow barf. There we go. So we've got west and south and up and down, all set to receive the redstone pulse, because we are doing well with the wiring. So now I can basically come along and just sort of carefully fill in so that it's done. We don't have to worry too much about it. So we've got all of this. See, we lost our connection there, so that means we have to make sure... Yeah, see? There. So we're fine. We're still fine. Everything is still properly connected. So now we just have to run our cables, our bundled wires, sorry, to the last two motors on this side, and we'll be good to go. We'll be able to test it next episode. Hopefully it won't shear itself apart. Alright, so... Now, we're going to be receiving the bundled cables from over here, so I'm not necessarily worried about connecting the bundled cable on this side to that one over there. It's not a high priority, but what I really want to be doing is making sure, first and foremost, that we keep our connection, right? So we just put that frame in to join the top and the bottom halves again, and we broke it out, so... Made sure that we did something to replace it before we forget. And now, get rid of these for now. We need more panels. We will need red and yellow. We'll just put that there where it's handy. So, panel, that guy. So that guy is north. Santa Claus is in the North Pole, and he likes to wear red. So that one's good. This guy is panel, rainbow barf, rainbow. And that guy, yeah, that guy is facing east. Sun rises in the east. The sun is yellow. There we go. So just like that, surprisingly quickly, we've got our motors in place. We've got frames pretty much set to surround them. I'll do, after, you know, I'm done recording, I'll take a quick tour around and sort of go over it with a fine-tooth comb and try and make sure that everything is good to go. So the next episode we can focus exclusively on the computer craft stuff and getting the control system in place. And then we'll be able to move it around the hangar and carry on with the other different modules that we'll be using in our Nether Crawler. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're enjoying this episode, the best way to be notified when I add a new episode is to subscribe to my channel, and also don't be afraid to let your friends know about what's going on here, because we can always share with more people. So I will... Oh, I broke it. See, look at that. Okay, there, I fixed it. We're fine. We're fine. Everything's fine. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next episode. Take care.